Good afternoon. My name's Joe Young. I'm the Executive Director of Disability Services, and thanks for joining us this afternoon on this webinar. It is something that we've done now in the North and South, and I'll just introduce my other panel colleagues online as well. So starting with Muriel.
Hi, I'm Muriel Kirkby, Director of Accommodation Services.
And Kevin.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Kevin Whitford. I'm with Finance and the Client Trust Unit.
Thanks, everybody. And I'd like to acknowledge and respect the traditional custodians of the ancestral lands that we're meeting on today. Where I am is Kaurna land. We acknowledge the deep feelings and attachment and relationship of Aboriginal peoples to country and pay respect to cultural authority of Aboriginal people in attendance today from other areas of South Australia and potentially Australia as well. So today, wanted to give you an update on our reform activities that are underway within the division and accommodation services to become a fully registered National Disability Insurance Scheme provider and also to deliver the service on an ongoing basis, providing continuity of care for your family member or friend who is supported by the service. Specifically today, really wanted to talk through a review of the accommodation services client fees, which there are numerous across our service that are not consistent or equitable for the people that we provide care and support to. This reform work is part of the broader piece as we become an organisation that is ready for the NDIS, and it is only consultation, and we're keen to get your views on what we're presenting and that structure as we provide more clarity to that. So first up though, I wanted to hand over to Muriel to give you an update on particularly where we are with COVID-19 and our response there, and also other reforms. So thanks, Muriel.
Great, thank you, Joe, and good afternoon, everyone. So look, I'd like to firstly thank everybody to adapting to the massive changes that we've had to undergo over the last year or so, as we've had various lockdowns and various things happen across the service and across the state. So I think everybody's just done an amazing job at being able to connect with their loved ones and family members in a different way, obviously using forums like this through Zoom, through FaceTime, and those sorts of things, and obviously the wearing of masks and the social distancing that we've had to put in place in the home. So I just wanted to thank everybody for that. And also I think the people within our service have just been amazing as they have also adapted to the new normal, if you like, and working in a different way, and working with people wearing masks and having limitations put on their lives. So just thank you to everybody for that. So we continue to work through COVID-19 within our community, within our society. And I wanted to give you an update just around how we're going with our vaccinations. So obviously we started vaccinating all of our clients, and we offered our clients the vaccinations first within the service. So on your screen there, you'll see a little bit of a summary in terms of how many people have received their vaccines to date. So of the people within accommodation services, as you can see, we've had 410 people who are fully vaccinated. A further 7 are waiting their second dose. And then there's a further 117 people within the service who are either waiting to have their Pfizer vaccine administered to them in their home, or perhaps they will be receiving that vaccine in a different environment depending on the GP's recommendation. We're also awaiting a number of approvals back and consents from some people's GPs. And of course, then some people have also declined the vaccine at this point for either medical reasons or personal reasons. And for those people who haven't yet made the decision around the vaccine, we certainly will continue to work with those people and make the vaccine available to them when the time is right for them. But we're really, really happy that the vast majority of our clients who have wanted the vaccine are vaccinated at this moment in time. In terms of our accommodation services staff, again, you can see there we offered the AstraZeneca vaccine to those staff initially, and now we actually have a Pfizer vaccine clinic that's running out of our Highgate Park Centre. So about 60% of our staff have received their first dose. 435 staff are fully vaccinated, And as I say, we will continue to work with the remaining DHS staff to ensure that that those vaccines are made available to people. And we have a number of people still booked in to receive the vaccine in the coming weeks. So we are pleased with that response. The vaccine coverage at the moment is mandatory for anyone working in our aged care Northgate facility. And I'm really pleased to say that of the 49 staff that we have at Northgate, all bar 5 people are vaccinated at this moment in time, but those 5 people are booked in the coming weeks. So the expectation is that everyone working in aged care would have their first vaccination by the 17th of September. So we're certainly online and on track to have that happen. So thank you to everyone for that. So just wanted to give you just a little bit of an update around our various reform activities that have been ongoing. So since the introduction of the NDIS, DHS accommodation services has been funded by the Australian government through an arrangement called in-kind funding. So rather than being a registered NDIS provider at this time, it was designed as an intermediate step to allow state governments to make decisions and transition the services that it delivered prior to the introduction of the NDIS. So for us to continue delivering our service on an ongoing basis, at the conclusion of the in-kind funding in June 2023, accommodation services must be a fully registered NDIS provider, and we must be sustainable, be a sustainable service into the future. So the South Australian government has made the commitment to provide this service on an ongoing basis, providing continuity of service for your family member or friend. It also means that there must be changes in service delivery. So a lot of you would have already seen this with the introduction of service agreements and consent to participate in the audit process against the NDIS quality and safeguarding framework. We acknowledge that we have provided you as families with a great deal of information this year, and we have sought a number of consents. So we've obviously had to look for consents for the whole vaccine rollout, and I think we had to do that twice, once for vaccine number 1 and once for vaccine number 2. And then obviously as we work through NDIS plans and processes, we've need to contact you quite a bit. So apologies for the amount and volume of communication articles you've had from us, and hopefully we'll get that into a more streamlined process for you moving forward, and certainly take that feedback that has already come in on board. So thank you for that. So it's really important that you are involved and informed about all of the changes that are happening in the service. So a review of client fees is also part of this work, and we will provide you with more detail about that today. Over the next 6 months, you will be hearing more about the reform activities, particularly about the stage 2 of the audit against the NDIS quality and safeguarding framework, the introduction of service agreements for those funded by disability support for older Australians, previously known as continuity of support, changes to restrictive practices laws in South Australia and what that means for people supported by accommodation services, and also changes to the supported independent living rosters. So quite a bit of information that has come to date, and quite a bit that will come in the next 6 months. But I'm going to hand back to Joe just to talk through the client fees piece, which is what we're here today to talk to you about. Thank you.
Thanks for that update, Muriel. And look, I should have said before that you can put into the Q&A any questions that you have that we will run through at the end as we come to that. And I know the questions in both person have been largely about a whole range of different matters, so don't feel that you need to ask questions regarding client fees either. It's an opportunity to ask Muriel and I pretty much anything you like. But look, in terms of client fees, I just wanted to explain what client fees are. So they are for everyday living expenses for the people that are living in the home, so your family and your family member or friend. And it's likely through the disability support pension. And those everyday living expenses include things like groceries, utility costs, communal furniture, white goods, general household consumables. And there's different ways that they are currently purchased and in the houses at the moment. These expenses are not covered by the NDIS or any other funding programs that people would be receiving. And it's responsibility of the individual to cover these through income that they receive from the Commonwealth, usually the disability support pension, as I mentioned, to pay for those everyday living expenses. It does not include rent. Rent is something that is now under a couple of years ago, with a number of changes around that, is paid directly to the landlord, and in most cases it's a community housing provider like an Access to Place or In Housing. That is a separate arrangement to client fees. We're just talking about those things like living expenses around groceries, utilities is a big one, and other things there. It will be different depending on which funding program the services or the services are funded by. They may be the NDIS, but it might also be the Disability Support for Older Australians, or what was Continuity of Support. There's now a few people within our service that are under the Lifetime Support Scheme as well, and My Aged Care. A person supported by accommodation services can participate in the future in a DHS managed program that coordinates these expenses, or choose to individually manage everyday living expenses themselves or by a trusted guardian or representative. So why do we need to change? In 2020, there was a commitment around state-run disability accommodation services continuing. And so therefore we need to, as a service, change and build consistent service across everything that we do, and have structures and systems that are equitable and the same across every client that we have in place. And client fees are part of that. So currently there are 11 different types of fee arrangements that have been negotiated over the years. A lot of these have come because of the arrangements coming out of our institutions like Julia Farr Services at Highgate and Strathmont Centre, and it really depended on the time and the particular villa that you might have been coming from. Is that fee arrangement was negotiated at that point in time, and they were relevant at that point. But I guess as we move forward as a whole service, and something that is now needing to be done as one, is that we need to bring some consistency and equitable quality across our service. So the proposal is, which I hope has been provided to you and is available hopefully online too, is explained more in the client fees proposed structure, and it provides choice for you, but it provides two choices rather than 11 or more. Those choices are DHS managed or individually managed. So firstly, the DHS managed. The DHS managed arrangement takes 47.5% of the disability support pension or equivalent to pay for everyday living expenses, which covers what's included in the DHS managed inclusion in your handout there. Accommodation Services coordinates this payment and expenses on behalf of the person supported by Accommodation Services. Under the proposed client fee structure, Accommodation Services would no longer collect any relevant Centrelink allowances in addition to the DSP, because individuals will be paying for their own medication and pharmacy. As such, a reduction of 47.5% of DSP has been calculated to meet everyday living expenses. Generally, the current fee arrangements to this point have included a payment of 50% of the DSP plus any Centrelink allowances. And I should say any costs above that 47.5%, that if it's more expensive to that, then that's covered by the department in terms of particularly utility costs where it gets the most expensive items. Individually managed is the current fee arrangement, which is usually referred to as financially discharged in our service. And it means that the person or their representative or guardian manages all the living expenses. This includes groceries, any consumables, all furniture, as well as contractually arranged services like utilities, electricity and gas and water. Accommodation Services has nothing to do with those fee arrangements. However, your family member or friend may still be supported to undertake meal planning, purchase groceries in the way that they've done in the past, and will continue to do as part of what our service is into the future. We can also help set up some contractual arrangements like paying gas, electricity, water on a monthly or whatever basis. Where everyday living expenses are individually managed in a house, weekly grocery expenses will need to be negotiated with household members if there are communal pieces like milk or those things. Things like furniture or white goods, which are used by everybody and need to be replaced. Again, these will need to be negotiated between household members in that space. For lifetime support, people supported by who are lifetime support participants or in our transition to home funded quite differently to that. And we'll need to work through these with individuals on that basis. Aged care, again, for anybody that is provided a service within Northgate Aged Care, the fee arrangements are set at an 85% of the single pension rate, which covers everyday living expenses, and it's set by the Australian government in that space. To ensure equality, all people living in the house where your family member or friend resides must be on the same client fee arrangement. So while you have choice of those two, it will be a household decision about which fee structure you go through. We will assist in terms of working that through with each household, but it's important to have one consistent approach there because it becomes too difficult to work through communal arrangements if somebody's on a 47.5 or DHS managed and somebody's on an individual within that same household. Where there is a cluster site, again, we're only talking about under the same roof where things are shared. So it needs to be joint where everybody's under that same roof. So a cluster site might hold multiple arrangements. Existing clients relocating to a new home will need to agree with the client fee arrangement that they in the house that they're entering into. And in the future, any interested accommodation services people coming into our service will need to agree to the client fee arrangement for that particular house that they move into. Document accommodation services client fees. The proposed structure provides you with further information about how this will work. And you'll have it available there. We're keen to obviously take any feedback or questions that you might have today in the chat, or you're able to provide that to us in a few different forms, including speaking to us. And we're keen to get your feedback by the 10th of September, which is a couple of weeks on Friday. So that really concludes what we wanted to run through today. You and I are happy to receive any emails you have. Kevin is the expert on any of the fees and bits and pieces in there, so we might hand it back to him to respond. But thank you for your time, and I hope that's been informative, and we'll see you next time.